What's up, everybody? Welcome to SWAT MMA. This is episode number 141. I'm Jarrod here with Paul.
What up?
Coming to you from the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Today, we are going to be talking all about UFC 277. Namely, can Julianna Pena do it again, or was the first time a total fluke? And should the co-main event even be an interim title? Plus, we're going to be discussing UFC London and what a great show that was outside of the main event. Namely, we're going to be discussing just exactly how high can Paddy and Molly rise. These questions and more debated on today's SWAT MMA. Before we get into the combat sports, though, you know what time it is. Grab your weed, fire it up, and let's get into the weed of the week.
Smoke weed every day.
What are we puffing on today on this joint here, Paul?
That's some chemo.
I know we had a few choices. I wasn't sure what you grabbed. No, chemo, this is a pretty interesting strain from what we were researching.
Yeah.
Unknown lineage. Supposed to be pretty rare.
Yeah, it's spelt different, so I thought it was something different, but it is literally weed made to help people who are going through chemotherapy.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a story/urban legend around this particular strain, which says it was developed at the University of British Columbia, which sometimes is called UBC chemo in reference to that, created by a Dr. Suzuki in the 1970s. We're looking for a ultra powerful and strong weed to help combat cancer in patients and the result of chemotherapy and other things. Now, who knows if that shit's true, but it's a cool story, and it's the only real origin story of this particular strain.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be a real powerful indica.
Yeah, what's the THC content on this?
It's only like 19.
That always doesn't mean shit, you know what I mean?
It has a pretty solid terpene profile for only being 19 then.
Yeah, we got some limonene, some B-carotene, some linalool. Surprised I can read that tiny print. This is nice. This is a smooth weed, though. I like this. I've actually never had this strain before.
Yeah.
One I actually haven't even heard of. Got a couple other things on the menu today, too, including some slurricane, which is another indica. Juicy eyes. Dosey dough crossed with purple punch. And also brought another rare one to the board today. It's got two different names. Sometimes it's called Granny's Apple Fritter, and sometimes it's called Apple Driver. This is a cross of Apple Fritter and Sunday Driver. And this is a hybrid, runs about 50-50 on the indica sativa. So let's hope these things don't knock us too far on our ass.
Going in.
Right, we're going all in. That's right, I'm caffeinated as hell today. So we should be good, at least on my side. But whatever you're smoking on out there, folks, if you're smoking with us, we hope it is delicious. And if it's not legal where you are, hopefully it will be soon, just like it is here in Vegas. And now, I do believe, Paul, 32 different states across the United States have some form of legalized cannabis.
Hell yeah.
So let's
hope that number keeps going up.
Yeah, that's progress, my friend. And they will continue to fall. That just leaves very few, 18 left.
Yep.
So, on that note, let's talk about some combat sports, buddy. I don't see how we can't start the show talking about the UFC London card. I mean,
talk about it seemed like almost like a repeat. Felt like a rerun to me. That first one a couple months back, it was like, wow, we had just gotten live events back. We had just gotten that whole electric crowd feel, and I felt like this one was just as big and just as the electricity in the crowds at these London events lately have just been ridiculous.
It translates through the television into sitting at home. The arena's packed. The O2, it holds 20,000. It's not super large, but it is jam-packed, and you can hear those people. We'll get more into Paddy's fight in a few minutes, but his entrance, dude, when's the last time you heard a crowd chant like that?
There's only There's only a few.
In case you
times.
missed it, folks, they chant, "Oh, Paddy the Baddy," and they don't stop.
No.
I mean, he got the full lights out treatment, and that whole shit was rocking.
Mhm.
All through his walkout, it was rocking. All through him standing in the cage and his interview, the whole shit.
It was rocking the whole time.
They love that dude.
They
man.
love him. And you know that it's very reminiscent of another gentleman from that side of the world.
It-
One, Conor McGregor.
It's hard
So,
to deny.
It's
the
hard.
parallel
It's hard
there.
not to compare these two, and that begs the question: like how far can not only Paddy but also Molly McCann? How far can they take this thing? You know, we've gotten 2 back-to-back events where there was so much build up, so much hype, and they both lived up to the hype and performed. So, where does with this happening, like, where do you think they can really take this?
Dude, it's hard to say. I mean, they're both, I think, have a different trajectory of where it is possible for them to land. Molly, I don't know what her ceiling is, but let's talk about her for a second. I mean, I learned something that I was unaware of during this broadcast, which apparently she is at least the only one in the UFC, maybe one of the only ones, period, but the only one in the UFC for certain, the only British female fighter. That
That's
seems
crazy.
unusual to me. But the crowd loves her. I mean, she's not as popular as Paddy, but she's very popular. The crowd fucking goes nuts for her. She's extremely charismatic. And, you know, you talked about last show that they had at the O2 a few months ago where she gets that insane spinning back fist knockout. Fucking place erupts. She erupts. And what happens? Dude, she did it again.
She did it again, and I don't mean to discredit anyone, but I think against a much better opponent in the hand of Goldie, that she's a good fighter. Like that.
Yeah, let's just
was-
talk about that fight. Let's start talking about Molly for a second.
Mhm.
Hannah Goldie went into that fight, I believe, 8-2 or 8-1.
Yeah,
She trains here
yeah,
at what, Syndicate,
I believe so.
and
She got into the UFC on Dana White Contender Series, so you know that she has the ability to have, you know, that whole show is about being exciting. You know what I mean? At the end of the day,
she is absolutely jacked.
dude. Yeah, she's in great shape.
That's one of the strongest looking flyweights on the fucking roster, bro.
Mhm.
Like, goddamn.
Yeah, she's real fit.
She looks like she has got some incredible power.
Mhm.
We all love Molly, but I mean, her nickname's fucking Meatball. For you know, it
Yeah.
was
Her
just
and
very
Paddy both
interesting
get that.
contrast because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was like this girl
Mhm.
Hannah comes out and it's like, oh my god, damn, she whooped my ass, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'd like to look as good as that. Fuck's sake, dude. She was
Yeah.
jacked, and she is a solid fighter. And I didn't know. I was like, man, I don't know if Molly can handle all this smoke here. And not only did she handle it, like she had more power, she had more athleticism, in my opinion, and her striking was just. Dude, she has good striking. It can get wild, but dude, she goes upstairs to downstairs to spinning back fists.
That's the thing that you gotta look at when you look at both Molly and Paddy is like how they fight up to the competition that is put in front of them, and just like I tend to think that maybe Paddy has a higher ceiling than Molly does, but like after last night, I think Molly has the chance to maybe take this further. Maybe not as far, but I think faster to the top than Paddy does, just because of the division she's in.
She gets the KO at 3:52 of round number 1. She landed 24 strikes. Hannah landed 9, and she's credited with the spinning back elbow KO, although there was some follow-up shots after that. But
not only that, and then jumps on the mic after, calls out Shevchenko's sister, jumps into, you know, well, prior to that, then jumps over the cage into Dave Portnoy's arms, and you know that's a clip because you know Barstool Sports can run with that forever, and that just builds her brand even more and more and more and more. So like that's why I feel like she might be able to take this further than Paddy, just because Molly's in a division where if she beats Shevchenko, like obviously not Valentina, but Antonina Shevchenko, yeah, that puts her in that like top 10 mix like right away.
Dude, she has intelligent striking that I don't see a lot of in mixed martial arts, where she's rattling off 8-9 punch combos going to the head and the body.
She's a little wild though. I'll give her that.
I know she's still raw.
Yeah.
All right, she's
Yeah.
not super technical yet, but
Mhm.
she's showing every indication that she can sharpen it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to just see people when they have someone up against the cage, like she had Hannah, and they're teeing off, and they just keep throwing like right hooks and left hooks,
Mhm.
and so the fighter up against the cage just blocks, and
Yeah.
instead of mixing it up where there's like openings for uppercuts or for body shots, but they don't, they just go wild. She's going wild, but she's mixing it up, man, which
Yeah.
is
Controlled chaos.
it's
You know.
yeah. I really love it when fighters remember that, man, I can go downstairs for a minute, I can work this body during this
Mhm.
combo, and then I can go right back to your goddamn
Just
head, because
opens
that's
everything up.
so many people forget that that's what body shots do. They get those hands to drop.
Mhm.
Fuck just punching them on their hands and their arms. Get them to drop that shit.
Yeah.
And then she does that, and then she throws intentionally that exact same move, that exact same spinning back fist when she's up against the cage. She knows that range. She knows she's opened up and confused because she did all these different strikes. Boom, fucking nails it, dog.
Yeah. That's. Yeah. That.
Fucking crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
She jumps out of the cage. She's super charismatic. Like, oh, god damn. This is what I love about fighting. I love it when we get this excitement behind these fighters, and you can see that a superstar could be born here. I think the superstar status might apply more to Paddy, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's there for Molly too. Not saying that she can't be popular, but I mean, there's a difference between being popular,
Yeah.
like, you know, like Michael Chandler is a popular fighter.
Mhm. Mhm.
Conor McGregor's a superstar.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
not the same shit.
Mhm. There's transcending the sport,
Yeah,
and that's what I mean. Like
that's what I was
like
looking
I
at.
think goal wise, maybe Molly could leapfrog Paddy, but I think like actual star power, Paddy's always going to be bigger than Molly in the end. I think.
Well, let's talk about him now for a second, because you made the comparisons here to Conor. Let's talk about this fight. He fights
Mhm.
Jordan Levitt. You know, a guy you wrestled this guy in high school, right?
Yeah, he's been around the like Nevada wrestling scene for years, and we're about the same age. So he's a really interesting like the way he grapples is interesting.
Yeah, he's
He's
unusual,
not yeah,
right?
and we saw that in the fight. He's not a even we've seen it throughout his career. I mean, think about
Yes.
his last big win was a dude it was like pretty much holding guard. He picked him up and slammed him and knocked him out. Like that was like that's been his big highlight of his UFC career. And so when you face a guy like that, it's always strange to engage in the grappling. And I thought Paddy did a pretty good job not being afraid of it and still obviously gets the submission win in the end, but like embracing that because I do think that was going in. That was Levitt's always going to be his way of beating Paddy because we saw early in the fight, Paddy came out and just started throwing bombs, trying to put him away right away. But then the wrestling kind of slowed the fight down in the first round. I think he didn't really do much with the control in the first round, so I gave Paddy that first round. But I thought second round it was all exactly what we were there to watch, which is Paddy Pimblett move up the ladder and keep living up to the hype that's around him at this point.
First person to submit Jordan Levitt. He's credited with 4 submission attempts, which I don't know the criteria for crediting submission attempts, because there was an earlier fight on this card where we saw Volkan Ozdemir fight Paul Craig. And I admit, I'll preface this with I need to go back and rewatch this fight. My initial impression was that Paul Craig won that fight due to his groundwork and all of his submission attempts combined with the striking that I thought he won that fight, and clearly I was wrong. I mean, the judges gave a clean sweep to Ozdemir, and there was a lot of talk about Ozdemir's supposed 15 stuffed takedowns, which weren't, in my mind, takedowns when someone is pulling guard.
Yeah.
Okay, but I saw him go for sub after sub, like he was trying heel hooks, all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
And then you go look at the official stats, he's credited with 0 submission attempts. However, Pimblett is credited with 4 and likely tried a whole bunch more.
Yeah.
Kind of based on that. I haven't gone back and rewatched that fight either. But my point here is we have these comparisons to Conor, right, Paul?
Mm-hmm.
Except Conor has a known weakness, right? It's the grappling.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Paddy seems to have the full package here. He's got striking that's not Conor level, okay, but he's got knockouts, and he's not afraid to engage on the ground. This was a guy that everybody's like, oh, you got to stay on the feet with him, and he's like, nah, we'll go down on the ground. I'm gonna try 4 subs, and I'm gonna choke him out and be the first guy to ever do that. So I'll fuck with his awkwardness, which couldn't possibly have been mimicked in training camp. Yeah, and I'll go into the danger zone and I'll win. That seemed to be his attitude. Then I'm gonna drop my ass in his face with a smile.
He said he was
since Jordan said he was gonna twerk on him, he was like, "Nah, here you go."
Yeah. I agree and disagree. I think Conor has a bigger hole, but I think Paddy has more holes. Like, Paddy has, in his striking, like we saw in his first fight, I think, like, it's just a bit sloppy.
Oh, it's sloppy.
It's sloppy. Like, it's like we're getting up in this weight class. You can't do that.
I mean, Jordan hit him a couple times, but Paddy seems to be kind of a guy that needs to be hit a couple times to be like, all right, I'm in a fight.
Yeah, but
that's dangerous as fuck. Maybe you can do that in Cage Warriors, maybe the lower levels of UFC. Can you do that when you're fighting?
I'll use this as a perfect example. Someone that he could possibly fight in the near future. Not saying this is a fight that's going to happen.
Okay.
But let's say they put him with a guy like Dan Hooker, which is like, he's not that far away, like rankings-wise, of facing someone on Dan Hooker's level. That would not fly. You can't do that against the upper echelon of this division. Whereas, like, when Conor came up, he had like an ultimate equalizer. You know what I mean, with his left hand, and like I don't see that. Like, Paddy is good overall. Like, he's good everywhere, but I don't think he has one thing that he's like great at.
Definitely, I agree with that.
Like, and that's what you kind of have to be at that top division. You got to be well rounded, but you have to have one thing that you're great at. Charles Oliveira is great at jiu-jitsu. Islam Makhachev is great at grappling. Michael Chandler has power that will knock you out. Justin Gaethje has power that will knock you out. Dustin Poirier, power that will knock you out. And these are guys that if Paddy Pimblett does keep rising this ladder, these are guys he's going to fight. These are guys he's going to have to fight to get to that belt.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's where I feel like his game isn't, I don't think he's like so far gone from, like, that he can't develop something that's going to ultimately be his like signature in the cage, but I just don't see it yet. You know what I mean? He has good submissions, but is it good enough to, like, stop a guy who, like a Beneil Dariush or something like that, who's going to have great submissions too? You know what I mean? These are the guys he's got to start worrying about, because he is going up this division. He's on the short list now, I feel like, of fighting someone who's ranked. Like, I think his next fight is going to be against someone who's ranked.
We'll see. I think his next fight is a headliner, and I definitely think it's against someone who's ranked, probably in 14 or 15 range. I'm not sure what the UFC rankings are down at that point off the top of my head, but I definitely see that. And maybe there's more to his game than we've seen. Maybe he can tighten it up when he wants to, and he hasn't felt the need to at this point.
Yeah.
Which is a dangerous game to play, maybe, until you feel the need to not play it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think we also should talk a little bit about his post-fight interview also. Dude's going through a lot. He lost a friend who killed himself, jumps on the microphone, talks about, like, mental health. And,
5 days prior.
Yeah. And then, like, a kid that's in their camp that he had done, like, a lot of charity work with passed away right before the fight too. Dude's got a ton on his mind. His ability to overcome not only the hype, but everything that is going on in his life too. You got to tip your cap to this guy. Like, he is something special.
No, that shows a strong mentality. Look, I've been through that, a friend killing themselves, and that shit is rough as fuck, dude. And to be able to hold it together, go on the media.
Dude, it was the kid died 5 days prior.
That's impressive, bro.
His friend died the day he weighed in.
Yeah, that's right. The day he weighed in, it was the kid 5 days prior, and that. I mean, that's incredibly difficult to maintain that type of strong mentality at that level.
Yeah,
I don't know how he did it. I mean, that's the type of shit you see people pull out of fights for. But obviously, he's not going to do that at this stage, in his career. But look, he has got. He only has 6 knockouts in 19 wins. So you're right. He doesn't have crazy knockout power. He's got 9 subs, but he's only got 4 decisions. He's never been KO'd. He's been subbed once. He's lost 2 decisions. His last fight that he lost was 2018 to Saren Bach in Cage Warriors.
Yeah, I remember that fight actually back then because that was actually when Paddy was originally like gaining the hype to go towards like the UFC contract.
Mm-hmm. That kind of derailed it for a little bit,
Yeah.
but since then he's now got 3 wins in the UFC against steadily rising competition.
Mm-hmm.
And with the crowd that he brings behind him, I just don't see how they don't put him in a headlining spot on a pay-per-view on his next out. They're a co at the least. I don't know who you put in the main. I mean, you're going to want to do it in England, I would imagine, or in the UK or in Europe. I mean, they don't have to. But.
Yeah. I think he's either a co-main of a pay-per-view or he's a main of a fight night.
They could possibly do that as well.
He was saying he wanted to fight in MSG, which would be November, right? That's usually when they do it.
That's usually when they do it. He does want to fight one more time this year, which he certainly could.
Definitely could.
Who do you think he matches up well with next? I mean, let's talk about that. Let me pull up these rankings here, and let's end the Paddy Pimblett discussion with who in the bottom of the rankings he should fight. At lightweight.
Honestly, I said I don't know earlier, but I kind of think fighting Dan Hooker or someone like that makes a lot of sense for him.
You think somebody of the Dan Hooker?
Dan Hooker's 13th in the division right now.
He's fell to 13th.
Yeah.
Damn. I guess he has been on a bit of a losing
he just lost
situation.
Yeah. Well, he's back to 55 now. He was at 45 his last fight, and he lost to Arnold Allen.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a solid test for Paddy, but that might be a little bit much.
I mean, you can give him Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner would be interesting.
Who's this Mogilov? I'm not even sure who that is.
I don't know.
Damn, Conor McGregor's ranked that low on there.
That's what I'm saying. He should not be in the rankings in general.
You should just remove him. That's silly.
Yeah. Just keep dropping him for no reason. Because every week he drops lower and lower. Every time someone wins on a fight night, it's like, oh, Conor's dropped. Remember last time we looked, he was 7. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's either they give him somebody ranked or they give him a name that's a little bit past his prime and is unranked at lightweight. I'm not. Who do we got? Is there any? If he was still in the UFC, you'd give him like a Benson Henderson or an Anthony Pettis, right?
Yeah, level. Yeah, I don't know.
Who's the Diego Sanchez now that he's gone that he could fight? You know what I mean? Like Diego would be perfect if he was still in the UFC.
Yeah.
You give him a veteran, like maybe a what about I know who. What about what's his name?
Maybe someone like Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson, yeah. Give him a Michael Johnson type.
I think Johnson's fighting 45 right now, but I don't think he would turn that down.
Or
he's coming off a win. Paddy's coming off a win.
Who's the fucking Brazilian dude who's like 40 and just won a fight? He's fucking good. Damn, I can't think of his name right now.
Rafael Dos Anjos?
No. He's not ranked. He's not ranked.
Oh, he's not ranked.
No, he's unranked, lightweight. He's fought everybody. He fought Khabib, and Khabib beat him like as a stepping stone when he fought. I don't know. Shit, I hate it. We're live on air, and I'm forgetting. I try to bring up something when we're sitting smoking, and I can't remember his name. Gleison Tybau.
Yeah, but he's in PFL now.
Is he? Well, then that's why he can't fight him.
That's why he can't fight him.
My subconscious is trying to not remember that for a reason.
Yeah.
All right. Well, somebody like that, though.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like someone who's either ranked it.
Because the problem is you give him a Dan Hooker and he beats him. Well, then who are you giving him a top 10, then a title shot? You really want to rush this kid that fast? Should he be fighting for a title in 3 fights that he wins? Or should he stretch it out a bit?
You never know.
Because he beats a Dan Hooker, then his next fight's going to be a top 10. he beats a top 10, then he's
Yeah.
fighting for a title. That's all. I mean, I'm not saying that's meritocracy. I'm saying that's UFC how they do shit.
If he's ready, he's ready though. Like that's the thing. That's why like his next fight has to be an actual test. It has to be, if not someone in the top 15, someone in that like 20 range.
Yeah, because this was a real test for him, but he mowed through him. I mean,
yeah. The only thing is like a lot of the people I'm thinking of that he could fight are coming off a loss already. So it's like, do they want to take that fight? I don't know, because like I think that would make sense. Like okay, someone who just fought Jalen Turner, like Brad Riddell, who just dropped out of the top 15, who he's coming off a loss, so I don't know if he would take that fight. But someone like him though, that is like tested.
I don't know if he wants to fuck with Jalen Turner, 6'3" ass.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't
That's
know who
it.
wants to fuck with Jalen Turner, honestly. I mean, if you had choices about who you want to face,
It's
I'm not
not
saying
him.
you're like scared. I'm saying you're trying to rise up to it. Do you really want to take out someone,
That's
somebody
it.
that
Yeah.
dangerous this early? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
Put a pin in
155 is a
that.
fucking Shark Tank. Like that's really what he has to be ready for. Like this whole division is no joke. There's not a single easy fight left for Paddy Pimblett outside of this fight here. Not
Well-
saying it was an easy fight, but you know what I'm saying? Like he's raised up to the hype level where now people are gonna want to see him tested for real.
UFC is going to want to milk it, as they should. Dude's fun.
He's fun.
I like it. And
It really
I like
just comes
that,
down to how much Dana like believes in him, to be honest.
I like what he said in the cage afterwards, man. That's
Yeah.
it's good shit. He's a fun dude. We'll see if he can keep it up. I'm always on board for a new superstar. I like this type of shit in MMA when somebody you can just kind of go along for the ride. I don't know if he has a bunch of haters like Connor does or did. I don't see why you would. He seems like a fun kid. I mean, I don't know why Connor was provocative.
Yeah.
I don't really see that in Paddy. I mean, he does shit, but he does it with a laugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he dissed him with
It's
the
much more
handshake shit
pranking. Yeah.
at the fucking weigh-in, but it wasn't
He
like
bought him
mean.
a book that said "bitch" on it.
Right.
Like,
like he was laughing, you know what I mean? He teabags him, but it was
teabagged
funny.
him and they dabbed each other up after he did it.
Right. Like, I don't know. We'll see. I like the ride, though. I hope it continues for both those two.
Yeah.
Now, as you're firing up that joint of the Slurricane, let's go ahead and. Is there anything else you want to talk about on?
Should we talk about the main event a little bit?
Well, yeah, we saw Aspinall just blow his knee out against Curtis Blades. I mean, that
Yeah.
sucked.
It puts a real wrench
15
in the
seconds
plans.
into the fucking fight.
Yeah. This
7
heavyweight
total
division
strikes
had
landed.
clarity. When that fight got announced and the Tuivasa and Sorogan fight got announced, like we started to get a little bit of clarity. And then for a fight like this to end like that, it just fucked it all up. Because now that didn't really show. And I feel bad for Curtis Blades because Curtis Blades did come out and hit him with a nice 1-2, like in that 15 seconds where
Mhm.
like Aspinall was like, okay, fuck, we're about to fight then.
Mm-hmm.
And goes for a leg kick, blows his knee out. Like what can you even really say for Curtis? You know what I mean?
I think the only way that you can treat it is like a regular win for Curtis Blades.
Yeah.
And when Aspinall comes back, the only way to make it fair is treat it like it was for him, which was an injury loss.
Yeah.
So it doesn't affect his career in a negative way, right? Aspinall doesn't like, oh, you got TKO. Like no one should treat it like that. He should be just like what it was for his next fight. I think he shouldn't be hurt in the rankings at all. And he should be treated just like he didn't lose that fight because he didn't really lose it, just on paper. And for Curtis, I think what's fair to him is he gets treated like what it was also, like a TKO victory.
Yeah.
So it's not his fault, dude fucked his leg up.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So
That is true.
I think Curtis they should both get the shine off of it when the time comes.
Mm-hmm. And one thing for Aspinall is he's still a young guy. He's still even young in the game.
He's
Like
not
I
going
don't think it hurts his stock at all.
No, it can't. No one should let it hurt us. Like the UFC, when I say they, I mean the UFC. The UFC, when their matchmaking comes back, they should treat him just like he didn't lose.
Yeah.
And whatever they proceed forward.
Well, and that's like the same thing as last week's card as well. Like Ortega dislocated his shoulder against Yair Rodriguez, and everyone was kind of just like, that's kind of like a no contest. Not a no contest, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I don't feel like it gave anybody shine, or like you said, hurt anybody shine either.
So I think Curtis just has to move forward in the division like he beat a young contender, and that's the only way that it makes any kind of sense. The whole situation sucks.
Well, yeah, because you have the whole division now held up still.
You can't do the rematch. You can't stop. You just have to proceed forward, in
And
my opinion.
It's interesting with Curtis though too, because if you give him a title shot after this, you're gonna schedule him and Ngannou a third time.
No.
Like
They won't do that.
You know what I'm saying?
Everything hinges on, we're in July right now, coming towards August. We got the last third of the year coming up, the last quarter of the year, the last 4 months. There's going to be a big heavyweight fight, but it's most likely going to be Stipe versus Jones for an interim heavyweight title.
Yeah.
And then sometime after that, we'll get news on Ngannou, whether he's leaving or staying. That situation's going to play out, and that directly influences what happens with Curtis Blades. Because if it's Stipe Jones, then Curtis might get the winner of that fight next.
Yeah.
Especially if Ngannou pieces out.
Yeah.
If not, then you're going to see Ngannou face the winner, and Curtis is just going to have to fight somebody else.
Yeah.
Personally, I think Curtis should wait a minute, and he's going to get that title shot. Because I think Ngannou's leaving. I think Curtis Blades gets the title shot against the winner of Stipe, whatever, and then most likely something will happen with Cyril Gane and
Tuivasa.
Yeah, or Gane, and Tuivasa. They'll probably have to fight somebody else afterwards.
Yeah.
Especially if it's Cyril, but we'll see.
My question to you though is, in a perfect world situation where Ngannou just re-signs and defends the title, do you ever see a scenario where you think Curtis can deservingly get a third shot at Francis Ngannou?
He has to beat one more person.
Yeah, can't just be off this.
Yeah, like let's just count on Jones Stipe happening, and then Ngannou facing that. Like Curtis has to fight the loser of that and win or something, and then get the like that's the only way it makes any sense.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, because he's on an interesting little win streak since that.
Or
you know
maybe
what I mean?
Beats the winner of Gane Tuivasa or something. So yeah, is that right? But I don't know, dude. Ngannou's fucked him up multiple times.
Yeah,
for fuck's sake.
Gave him a doctor stoppage the first time, broke his orbital, and then freaking the second time just TKOs him pretty easily. So
yeah, like the best thing that could happen for Curtis Blades is Ngannou doesn't re-sign, and he has an opportunity to possibly fight John Jones or Stipe, who's going to be really shining after that fight. Like whoever wins between those two is going to be fucking heralded as the GOAT, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all this talk about them being the greatest in their respective weight classes anyways.
Yeah.
There's at least an argument to be made for both. I think that's undeniable. Whether you
both,
feel that they
without a
are or
doubt.
not, there's an argument there. Clear cut, there's
Yeah.
an argument. So the winner of that is just going to be the shit. And to be able to get a fight against them will be dope. I mean,
that's why that fight can't be for anything less than a title. Like it couldn't be a number one contender fight.
No.
Even
dude.
no.
You can't take the possibly greatest light heavyweight and the possibly greatest heavyweight and stick them in a non-title 3-round bout, dude. Are you kidding me? Fuck that shit. It has to be for an interim title or well, I don't know what else is. That's going to happen, irregardless of Ngannou staying or leaving.
Yeah.
That's an interim title fight that's happening.
Yeah. All right.
I actually can't believe it hasn't been announced.
Well, speaking of that, we didn't really plan on talking about this before, but I do want to talk about it. What has been placed in spot of what card that was supposed to have Stipe and Jones as the main event is now Nate Diaz versus Khamzat Chimaev in Nate Diaz's final fight of his UFC contract.
We'll definitely be talking about this more as the situation.
I don't really want to talk about the fight itself. I just want to talk about this whole, because a lot of shit has unfolded since we last were on air with Nate Diaz. Because he goes on air at Hawani, he talks about he wants out of his UFC contract. They won't give him a fight. He lays out 5 fighters that he's asked to fight. says all of them have said no, including Khamzat Chimaev. And then about 3 days after he goes on Ariel, all of a sudden it's announced he's fighting Chimaev, and they're letting him fight out his UFC contract, which originally they didn't really seem like they were too willing to. You know what I mean?
I heard a theory on this that I give some credence to because the dude does seem to have some pretty legit on points. Jesse on Fire on YouTube was laying out that he believes that this fight was unannounced and completely, or not unannounced, not agreed to prior to the announcement from Hunter Campbell. He believes it was a 4D chess move by the UFC and Hunter Campbell against Nate Diaz because Nate went on Ariel's show and was like, I'll fight anybody. And then, like you said, 3 days later, all of a sudden, they've publicly announced him, Chimaev, main event, 5 rounds,
September.
boom. And it was Hunter Campbell that did it. And they can say it was, and they said specifically it was a verbal agreement. The fight has been verbally agreed to. If Nate says, I'll fight anybody, and Chimaev says, yep, I'll fight Nate, that's a verbal agreement, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they kind of put Nate into a corner where what's he going to do? Come out and not take the fight now and then look like a pussy?
Mm-hmm.
Or look like he was lying? That's not really the Nate Diaz brand. Or is he just going to be like, yep? And not that he wouldn't have maybe done it before, but that they were like, this is it now.
Yeah, this is the one.
Now you can't not sign the fight. We're going to announce it before we've made a deal with you, and here it is.
Yeah, and it's interesting because also what Nate said in that interview was like, he's willing to fight Chimaev, but that he was tired of the UFC trying to use him to create their stars.
And that leads me into a conspiracy, completely unfounded theory that I have, is that this fight isn't going to happen, that something will derail it on the side of the Nate Diaz camp sometime before it goes down, maybe even days before it happens. And then, because there's another bit of information that came out in the Ariel Helwani interview, which has further been confirmed by Brett Okamoto at ESPN, which is that Nate Diaz's contract has a sunset clause and it literally expires in October.
Yeah.
Like, so just a month or few weeks after this fight goes down.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, this is something Nate was unaware of.
Yeah.
So either way, Nate's contract is coming to a close, whether this fight happens or not.
Yeah.
So I believe that there's a possibility that Nate might give a fuck you to the UFC on the way out the door in the way of an injury withdrawal of some sorts, moments before this fight happens, waiting a few weeks, sunset clause goes down, he elects to leave.
Yeah. But
And
I think the ultimate
they don't get to make a fucking name off of him.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the problem, though. I don't think that they do make a name off of him with a win over Diaz, because I think everyone on planet Earth thinks Nate Diaz is going to lose.
The only way that he makes a name off Diaz is if he comes out and smokes him in the first round or some shit, knocks him out.
Which never
But
happens.
if Nate takes a 5-round beating,
yeah,
and is sitting there talking shit the whole time,
I think it ups Nate's stock.
yeah,
Just
Nate's
like
not
all the
gonna
other
get
losses.
hurt by his fan base.
Yeah,
because everybody expects him to lose as long as he's there talking shit, throwing a Stockton slap or two in the 5th round and spitting in the dude's face. I mean,
that's the thing. Every Nate Diaz fight is a car wreck too. Like, this is such a dangerous.
I
fight
hate
for
this
him.
fight. I don't like it.
I
At all.
hate it so much.
Dude, I don't want to even see it. I think
Just
it's gonna
after
get
watching
mauled.
the Burns fight too, and watching what Chimaev is willing to just fight fire with fire like that. I don't want to see that happen to Nate Diaz again.
Oh man, he shouldn't be fighting. That's not the lane he should be in right now. It's not a diss to say that. I fucking love Nate Diaz.
But just to flip the old coin, if Nate Diaz comes in and beats Khamzat Chimaev on an expiring UFC contract, will be the biggest Nate Diaz fuck you UFC move you ever could do.
It'd be bigger than when he beat Conor, really.
It would, because
Maybe not in the whole world's view, but in the MMA universe.
in the MMA universe, like, let's be honest, what hole does Khamzat have? Like, he doesn't seem to have any holes.
I haven't seen
Like,
it yet.
we have yet to see any holes. Like Connor, like there was a path of victory that a lot of opponents like kind of like going in were like, well, just try to take him down and try to sub him.
Right. I mean, that was the narrative.
Yeah,
Everybody knew it.
yeah.
It was just you didn't mean you could
There's
execute
no
it. Mendez
narrative
tried.
around how to beat Khamzat Chimaev yet.
Not yet.
And
Hard
if
to
Nate Diaz
deny.
does it, dude, I'm not surprised. Motherfuckers will happen all over again. It will be the biggest chess piece move Nate Diaz could ever do with the UFC.
That's like a dream scenario for me as an Nate Diaz fan. Like,
Yeah.
I want that to happen more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also living the real world. I know that's.
Yeah, me too. I'm just laying that out there just because it has to be said. Because
I hope it
although he's a
happens.
giant underdog, it could happen.
I hope it's
Anything can
either
happen in that cage.
that or the fight doesn't happen. Frankly.
Or like we've seen 2 weeks in a row. What happens if Chimaev goes out there and something happens? You never wish to see anybody get injured, but injuries happen in this sport, as we've seen literally 2 weeks in a row. So, what if he gets injured, something like that on that end? Then he backs out of the fight, and Diaz walks a free man without having to. I don't think it hurts his brand, but it wouldn't hurt his brand even more in people's eyes if some scenario happens where Khamzat has to drop out of the fight. You know what I mean? There's so much shit that can happen before September 10th. And we'll get more into that when it happens. But let's talk about this pay-per-view coming up.
Yeah, we got UFC 277. Look, when you take the title of the interim title out of the picture, I like all the fights here. Like I like the main and the co-main event. I think are good fights specifically. And there's a fun one here. Derek Lewis is on the card. We did have a good matchup with Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold originally on this card. Unfortunately, that was canceled. But we've got Brendan Moreno and Kai Kara France, and we've got Julianna Pena and Amanda Nunes as title fights at the top of this.
Both these are part twos as well.
Yes. And I think there's interesting questions around here. And let's save the big dogs for last. And let's start with the co-main event, which I like this fight. I think this interim title is fucking ridiculous, though.
There's a lot of layers to why this is an interim title fight, though.
Well, let's break it down for our listeners who probably are unaware.
Yeah, so let's
It's
just
the flyweight division.
Yeah, the flyweight division where we've seen Brandon Moreno and the champion split 2 fights and have one draw.
Yeah, so Davison Figueiredo and Brendan Moreno fought 3 times in a row. Like, that's been Davison Figueiredo's opponent the last 3 outs, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
he's got a draw and 2 wins?
Yeah.
Or a draw and 1
No,
win?
1 win and a draw.
1 win and a draw.
Yeah. They're 1-1-1-1 against each other. And so the thing is, going into this fight, there was a lot of like controversy. It originally was supposed to be Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno part 4.
Yeah, this was announced by the UFC.
Yeah. And then Figueiredo ends up dropping out due to a hand injury, fires his manager at the same time, gets a new management, comes out to the media talking about how a big reason why he didn't want to take this fight was not only the hand injury, but because of his pay. And so he ends up dropping out. And then now we have this weird situation where the UFC is kind of making this an interim title shot as punishment almost to Davison Figueiredo for not only backing out of the fight, but also coming out and saying he doesn't think he should have to fight Brandon Moreno a 4th time. He needs to get paid more if he's going to do that. And that's he's almost kind of holding out. And we've seen notoriously, UFC doesn't do holdouts.
He's very low paid. Did you see what he got for the last? He got $100,000 for.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
His last fight against Moreno.
Yeah. Because he gets 100 and 100, I think.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. That dude has a belt. Like, are you kidding? You paid him 100 G's?
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy.
I mean, this is the problem with the UFC. And they really, really, really want Brandon Moreno to be champion. Let's not act like they don't.
Brandon Moreno definitely has more star power.
Yeah, they believe that he is the key to Mexican pay-per-view dollars. And by Mexican, I mean in the country of Mexico, not the descent. I'm talking.
Yeah, for
in the-
sure. Well,
like-
he is because he also does commentating for the UFC in Spanish. Like when you
Yes.
switch over to Spanish, he's the commentator for the UFC. He is part of the
Have you ever
cash cow.
listened to the commentary team and the promos, like when he did have the belt?
Mhm.
I mean, they said it so much. I was like, okay, like enough. Like
Yeah.
they couldn't stop about how he was the first Mexican champion. The first,
Mhm.
like Jesus Christ, you've said it 800 times in this broadcast.
Yeah.
Like we get it, and we know the pay-per-view's business model. Like that's all they're trying to do here.
Yeah.
And they've already got the Brazilian dollars. There's been a plethora of Brazilian champions. Davison Figueiredo does not open any markets whatsoever for them.
Yeah.
Like he to them is no key to anything other than the same money they get if he's not champ, probably.
Yeah.
So I get his viewpoint, dude. How many times do you have to keep fighting the same person before they have to go out and beat somebody else? Like he's the champ now.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that fight a fourth time. When they announced it, I was like, Jesus Christ.
I mean, it kind of
Fuck.
has to happen a fourth time, though. Like
Right
I don't-
away?
Not right away. I don't think it does happen right away, but I do think down the road it does have to happen a fourth time.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's gonna now if he beats Kai Kara France.
Yeah. Which this is also a rematch. Coming in, Kai
Fucking
Kara
shit,
France is coming off some of the biggest wins of his career. He beat the one person in the division that's always kind of been the boogeyman. Everyone said Askarov was going to be unbeatable after his tie with Moreno, and that was kind of the title eliminator for this ultimate title shot for Kara France. And I think he's got a lot of juice. I think he's got everyone behind him. This is his fight to
Well, this
lose.
is who Davis and Figueiredo wanted to fight. He
Yeah.
wanted to fight Kai
Kara
Kara
France.
France
Yeah.
instead for the title
Mhm.
and have Brendan Moreno fight somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't understand what the problem there is unless the UFC simply is trying to force the match. It's another fight that opens up those dollars that they're seeking so badly.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it's gross. I get it. I think the UFC is very exploitative in that regard.
Mhm.
Like we've seen them do it with country after country after country. It just seems weird to me. This is 2022. We're still trying to fucking do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's true.
do you feel that this needs to be for an interim title? How is because that for me, I say no. Fuck it. I don't see why they needed to make an interim title out of this in any way, shape, or form, other than as an FU to Figueiredo.
I do think it's an FU to Figueiredo also, and I don't think you have to have it as a title fight because it's not even the main event. It's the co-main event.
And so they forced it.
It doesn't
into
really
5
add that
rounds.
much into it doesn't add that much. You could still make it 5 rounds and make it for the first number one contender. We've
do that all
seen
the
that
time.
constantly. We're seeing that constantly with the UFC. I don't know why anybody would think that they couldn't do that. You know what I mean? But I do think it's an actually good fight, though. Outside of the controversy with it, it's going to be a good fight. Both these guys just have been refusing to lose in their last few fights. You know what I mean?
Kai Kara Francis' win over Cody Garbrandt was nice, dude. That was pretty spectacular.
Nobody had him winning in that one. Nobody,
he
right?
fucking lit him up, man.
Oh wait, I did. I bet.
Ha. He did make some loot on that fight.
Yeah, no, but he's got a lot of momentum coming into this. Moreno, that last fight with Figueiredo was really close, but I think everyone can admit that he lost the fight, and this is his chance to get right back on track and get back to the title fight. That's why I don't think this has to be for an interim title, but the fact that it is whatever.
Yeah, I like the fight. I think that it's what needed to happen for Moreno. I don't think you just coast into yet another title fight right away.
Yeah.
I get Davis and Figueiredo's point there. I think it's unfortunate that he can't book a fight in the meantime as well.
Yeah.
That's what he wanted. He wants to face somebody different. But I think it's good for Moreno to do so. If he gets the victory, it's hard to deny him that fourth fight. I agree with what you said. It's inevitable if he keeps winning.
Yeah.
It just shouldn't
Doesn't have
be
to
back
happen
to
right
back
now.
to back to back
Yeah.
to back, for fuck's sake. However, I don't know if he wins this fight. I think Kai Kara France is on a bit of a roll and has a strong possibility of winning this fight and earning himself that title shot. And that's what I'm going to pick here. I'm going to pick France in what's got to be an upset. He's got to be the underdog here to continue his winning ways and get a decision victory.
Yep. I don't know. I think we've seen Brandon Moreno get better since they last fought for sure. But I think also Cara France has got a lot of momentum behind him. So I guess I'm gonna take Moreno just because I'm more sure of what he's got, you know. But Cara France could win this fight very easily.
All right. Main event. Julianna Pena rematching Amanda Nunes. Was it a fluke or was it legit? That's what this will answer. And by fluke, I mean there's a lot of people who are in Amanda Nunes' camp and fans that will say that she blew that second round. She came out and fought differently. She was not herself. She was sloppy, strange, out of it. She's been making poor choices in her camp. She left American Top Team. She formed her own shit. She got a baby, wasn't focused. Now all that's going to be corrected because she lost her title. She's going to be back to the lioness, laser focused, going to go in there like she was doing in that first round and whoop that ass. I'm in that camp, sir. Maybe not to that extreme, but I do think that it was a good performance by Julianna Pena in the second round combined with a poor performance by Amanda Nunes, which I think is unlikely to happen in the rematch.
Yeah, here's my only problem though. All that stuff you laid out right there.
Yeah.
What are those, Jarrod? They're excuses. And that's what they are. Like at the end of the day, Julianna was the better fighter on that
No,
night.
I think those are facts. I don't think they're excuses. I think
leaving your camp is an excuse.
Well, no, okay. No, I mean, let's talk about. You're right. Okay, that yes.
Like no, all the other stuff like about her regular
decisions.
life, I get those. But I'm saying like there's been a weird like mental shift from Amanda Nunes since that fight. The fact that she left her gym, I think is not. I don't think that was the problem in there. I think her fitness and her choices, like you were saying, like
I'm saying
things
those
going
are
on
things
in
that
her
a lot
life.
of people have said.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
she lost that fight because she fought dramatically different in the second round.
I thought so too. I thought those were like errors that happened inside the cage. Whereas I feel like since that fight has happened, she kind of has blamed stuff that was going on in her life, and I get that. A lot of shit happens, and nobody's perfect. Everything happens in everyone's life. But we've also seen this trend in the UFC. It happens when you become a star, you become the champion.
Mm-hmm.
You slip sometimes, not
Mhm.
because you are inadequate at like technically, but just like all those things, they start to pile up in your life, and you have all these different responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Whereas like Julianna Pena has been on the warpath to fight Nunes since her first stint in the UFC. You know, this is now her second stint in the UFC, and she wanted that. She was hungry, and that's what happens. And I think in this second fight, I think Julianna's still hungry to prove to people like the fact that we even have to talk about is it a fluke is I think that is what is fueling Julianna Pena to do it again, because a lot of people have come out and said it was a fluke, and that's
not her fault. That's
no.
actually Nunes' fault
Mhm.
because Nunes looked.
Yeah.
She just fought bad in the second round. Like whatever the reasons were for it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she fought bad because Pena fucking hit her so hard her head was fucking wobbled.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a direct result of Pena's awesomeness, but whatever the reason behind it is, I think it's pretty clear. I just don't think that's going to happen again. And I think Nunes is still the better fighter. I think she wins. I think she retires.
Wins and retires, huh?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. I think if she loses, she retires. If she wins, she keeps going.
Could be. I could see a possible retire with a loss as well, because that cements that everything I just said was bullshit.
Yeah.
That it didn't really have anything to do with Nunes' poor performance. That Pena's simply a better fighter.
Yeah.
And this is what Pena needs, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
She comes out, she whoops Amanda, gets a decision, in whatever way.
Yeah.
As long as it's clear.
Yeah, as long as it's clear cut and
there's no.
You can move on from it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if Amanda comes out and fights just as sloppy, then you know what it is. It's a decline, and that's what happens.
Well, and here's the thing too: is it opens a lot of doors for both these fighters with a win. Like, I think Amanda, obviously, there's only one fight left in her career that like makes any sense, and that's Valentina. And then I think even with a Pena win, if Pena beats Nunes twice, I think her and Valentina makes a lot of sense too. That's a rematch. Those are two of the best fighters in the world, and they both are generally the same size. And it would be a chance for Valentina to give her division a second to, you know, gain some new stars and for people to fight each other. And I think both those fights make a ton of sense.
Yeah, I like that too.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
But yeah, I'm taking. This is pretty obvious. I'm taking Julianna Pena to do it again.
And I'm taking Nunes to set the record straight here.
Which, although we could call it a fluke or not, I think it begs another question. Then, does it happen a third time if Nunes beats her? Because it was so deciding, and there's really not many, contenders in that division. Also, like, if she beats Julianna, does she walk away or does she take one last big payday for a third shot to show that that was slippage, she's a GOAT, and walk off into the sunset with nobody even questioning that?
I think the UFC would definitely look to book the trilogy.
They would throw
with Nunes win.
they would throw the Brink, they would put the Brinks truck right in her fucking front yard if they wanted to do it a third time, you know?
And a lot of that, I think, will depend on how big this pay-per-view sells as well, and what the interest level are. Because I'll be honest, they've built this behind a season of The Ultimate Fighter that I have watched absolutely none of. And honestly, I'm a fan of that show.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm probably one of the few left in the MMA world that's a fan of that show. I mean, but I haven't been interested at all, dude. I haven't even gone back on. I mean, I have ESPN Plus. I haven't even gone back and fucking watched the on demand.
That's what's weird too, because I thought that first comeback season where it was Ortega and Volkanovski, I thought it did pretty well, and it had made good build up for when they fought, and when they fought, it was interesting. But yeah, I don't see that same promotion of this second season back that they did in that first season.
I don't hear any talk about it.
Yeah, and it's honestly the UFC's fault. Like, they promoted the shit out of freaking Ortega and Volkanovski season. I have really rarely seen very many promotions for this last season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Well, we'll see how it does, and we'll see how our predictions pan out.
Yo. I think that wraps up our show for today.
I think it does. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you're brand new to the show, you can catch us wherever podcasts are put out, all your favorite streaming platforms, from Amazon to Apple to Google to Spotify and everywhere in between. We've got all that information in a brand new location for you.
SWATMMA.com, where you can head over there, click the gear button and support the podcast, and then head over to Instagram and follow us at SWAT MMA Podcast.
Thanks, everybody.
Peace.